If you're into watches and someone says to you, aviation chronograph, there's a good chance that the iconic Breitling Navitimer might pop in your mind, and for good reason. It won the hearts of aviators and amateurs alike, so of course a lot has already been said about this watch since it took flight, by other people. And now, well, now it's my turn. I'm the Timist. Let's get started. The Breitling Navitimer can be had in multiple sizes, usually, but this one is special and only comes in one case size because it's the Navitimer Legacy Edition that was quietly launched back in 2020 with zero fanfare or marketing from Breitling. I'll go into the history in a bit, but first, let's run the numbers. The steel case is 46mm across, finished in high polish. It's 14.5mm thick, has a lug-to-lug of 52.4mm, and the spacing between the lugs is 24mm. It weighs? Well, let's find out. $178 grams, or 36 Hershey Kisses alongside a quarter and a dime. You know, in case you wanted to feel what 178 grams feels like at home. Anyway, it also has a 3-day power reserve and is a chronometer certified timepiece. With the numbers out of the way, let's talk about the heart of this aviation watch, the B01 caliber. First launched back in 2009 with the Breitling chronomat and clearly visible for us to enjoy thanks to its sapphire caseback, this is the in-house engine that powers all Breitling upscale watches. The B01 has a power reserve of 70 hours and, at least to my eye, appears to be handsomely detailed, albeit a little rugged. The 47 jewel caliber is adjusted in 5 positions and is a Swiss certified chronometer that operates at 28,800 VPH or vibrations per hour. As an aside, but related to the topic, the larger the VPH, the smoother the seconds hand sweeps. Another important note is that all B01 calibers give the wearer the ability to adjust the quick date function without fear of breaking anything, if it happens to be within the 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. danger zone. Nice. Let's talk about the watch for a moment without focusing on any one specific area. At 46mm, it's what many might call large. In fact, I can actually hear some of you actively skipping to the next video because of this. Don't do that. Stay a while. I may be able to convince you. Maybe not, but come on. Now, as I alluded to earlier, the 2020 Legacy Edition was only offered in one case size, and it was created by Breitling to celebrate the fact that in 2014, Breitling introduced and placed the in-house B01 movement for the first time in a 46mm Navitimer case. This is also why you'll find the gold Breitling wing logo on the top center of the dial, as well as a clear caseback, which is now actually standard on all Navitimers, but in the previous years was only added to the limited edition watches. This commemorative release also meant that even though Breitling as a brand no longer applies the winged B logo on every single watch they make, now instead preferring to place the family B logo, they did in fact apply the same gold wings that were on the original 2014 Navitimer B0146 to stay true to the aforementioned nature of this release. Now let's shift focus to the main event, the dial. Simple it is not. Peering through the large sapphire crystal that also happens to be treated with an anti-reflective coating on both sides, we see the Navitimer's main party trick, the slide rule bezel. Breitling conjured up this tool to help amateur as well as professional pilots to execute quick calculations in relation to, amongst other things, fuel, airspeed, and calories. Okay, so that last one isn't true, but if all Porsches look like a squashed Volkswagen Beetle, then all Navitimer dials are busy. It's part of its signature look. Now that I've offended all Porsche owners, I'll ask them nicely to continue watching. Joking aside, a signature look is something that a lot of brands work really hard to achieve.
You see, a heritage cannot be created, it must be earned. And that is what sets the Breitling story apart.
And if you're into that, like me, then you know why the Navitimer basically looks the same since its introduction all the way back in 1952. Now, do I know how to use the slide rule bezel? Psh, of course, totally. But just in case you don't know how to do it, don't worry. Breitling has enough tutorials to teach us all how to do it, and then some. The Navitimer Legacy came in two dial colors, a starburst blue, and a slight sunray matte black. Here we have the black in what many like to call a reverse panda look. Now, because it's a chronograph, you'll see the triple white subdials that have become a signature sight. At the 3 o'clock, you have the elapsed minutes topping at 30. At the 6 o'clock, you have the elapsed hours, and at 9 o'clock, you have the running seconds. The chronograph's second hand is red with the iconic anchor and B logo acting as a counterweight, and glancing over at the 4:30 position, we see the date function with a color-matched date disc. Speaking of the chronograph second hand, the B01 chronograph complication is equipped with a vertical clutch system, which means you can actually let the chrono hand run non-stop, unlike a lateral clutch system which puts additional strain as well as wear and tear on the internals. As far as Lume goes, the Navitimer Legacy utilizes Super Luminova C3, which is applied on the hour and minute hands as well as on each hour marker. The hour markers themselves are applied and are polished. The dial text is super crisp as well, and of course, standing proud at the top center, we see one of the most recognizable logos in the watch industry, the gold Breitling Wings. Moving on, let's focus a bit on the case. It's entirely high-polished stainless steel, so it really pops, especially in direct sunlight. It can also act as a fingerprint magnet, so I find myself constantly wiping it down, but that's just me. With no crown guards in sight, the watch crown itself is push down and the pushers themselves are pump style. Say that 3 times real fast. Now, because all of this, the watch is actually rated at 3 bar or 30 meters of water resistance, so clearly a pilot's watch because, let's be real, if you're exposed to large quantities of water inside the cockpit of your plane, you making a left at Albuquerque is the least of your problems because clearly something has gone horribly wrong. Let's talk about the bezel teeth. Naturally, if you're going to have a slide rule bezel or really any feature that requires the user to operate the bezel via twist motion, let alone a pilot that could in theory be wearing gloves, you'll want to ensure that the bezel teeth are crisp, sharp, and grippy. And that's exactly what we have here. Super confidence inspiring with enough friction tolerance to keep it from feeling flimsy, it's a joy to operate it. As for the lug profiles, we see that they're actually squared off at the end with a bit of an expanding bevel. This adds some nice sculptural variety and gives the lug arm some character. Now, the big question, as most of you are wondering, I'm sure, from the moment I said this is a 46mm watch is, yeah, but how big is your wrist, Mr. Timist? Well, for one, that's a personal question, and two, I'm happy to answer that question. My wrist is 6 3/4 inches, and for me and my tastes, I think this watch suits me just fine. The biggest factor in sizing watches for your wrist, in my opinion, is the lug-to-lug distance, not necessarily the diameter of the case. And although 52.4mm is indeed pushing the limits for most folks, I honestly think that more people can pull this off if they only allowed themselves to actually try a watch of this size on. Trust me. Oh, and if you disagree, then let me know in the comments. In closing, is there a need for such a busy and visually complicated watch with a slide rule bezel? No, absolutely not. There's no need for it. But what if you're a pilot? Still no. They have far more competent hardware at their disposal to calculate fuel, airspeed, and the like. So is this watch pointless? Oh, without a doubt, as are all watches. The short and honest answer is you don't need this watch, or any watch for that matter, because most of these things are excess or we've solved the core issue with something better. We don't need them, but we want them. We want them because these things bring us joy in some form or another. Soda tastes good. Fuzzy socks keep us extra toasty and feel good. Fondue is... do we really need a reason to want to smother everything in cheese and then eat it? Tattoos help us express ourselves. And an old world encyclopedia reminds us of a different time. It's romantic. It's history. Watches are a form of expression, a way to celebrate a moment in time captured in physical form, like an anniversary, a birthday, a promotion, a successful deal, or the birth of a child. But it doesn't end there. Maybe you have an affinity for all things mechanical in nature, or maybe it's just another way for you to express yourself and who you are with an accessory. Or maybe perhaps you're a dedicated watch collector. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you do you, and if you want to own a watch or a watch collection in a world where some will say they're unnecessary, tell them that although you respect their viewpoint, their opinion is unnecessary, and then immediately stop worrying about it. And immediately start enjoying your watch and the knowledge and knowing that there are others just like you. And that's why this legacy Navitimer is going into my personal collection, with the story behind why it means so much being a tale that I share with you at a later time. I'm the Timist, and I hope you enjoyed this film on the Breitling B01 Navitimer Legacy Edition. If you did, please do me a favor and give this video a like, consider subscribing for more content like this, and drop me a comment below with what your thoughts are on the Breitling Navitimer or watch collecting in general. Be well, and I'll see you in the next one.